How can we start to identify if we do maybe have an unhealthy relationship to shopping?
Yeah, I think it's important to just focus on the feelings, that's going to tell you the most about your relationship that you have with shopping. Like an unhealthy relationship with shopping, I think often feels like a lot of discontentment and frustration. And like you never have enough or you never find the right thing. So paying attention to just the feeling that you have around when you think about your style and the things that you own, and even just when you're out looking and trying things on, like really, is it a positive experience? And also paying attention to your shopping triggers, I think is really important. And you kind of touched on this, like, do you shop when after you've had a really bad day at work? I definitely had that problem before.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, are you shopping when you're feeling insecure or upset because of some other area of your life? And to just remind ourselves that there are much more productive things that we can do to make ourselves feel better when those feelings arise. And I think that a healthy relationship with shopping feels like contentment, right? So it's like getting excited about the things that you own, and wanting to wear the things that you have a lot because you just love how they feel when you put them on, and just feeling really good about getting dressed every day and feeling like the clothing that you're wearing is an extension of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And I totally experienced those like triggers. When I was working like a 9 to 5 job, my first job was on Michigan Avenue, which, so for anyone unfamiliar, that's like the main shopping street in Chicago.
Oh man.
Temptation overload, right? And I
Yeah.
literally walked like down Michigan Avenue to get, home on my path home. And, when I had a bad day, I would be like, oh, I'm just gonna like walk through Nordstrom and that'll like make me feel better. And um yeah, that became very like harmful for sure. And that definitely like for me was like my unhealthy relationship to shopping. But I also experienced some unhealthy relationships to shopping even once I sort of made this switch, so to speak, to sustainable fashion. Like I even once I started like getting into secondhand fashion and slow fashion, like I noticed that like when I was having a down day or whatever, I would go on like ThredUp or Poshmark or whatever,
Yeah.
and I would start to browse secondhand clothes, which is like still an unhealthy relationship to shopping because it wasn't like I needed something or like I was missing something in my wardrobe. It was literally for some sort of, yeah, I don't know, external validation, hit of dopamine, whatever. I'm not a psychologist, but I just know that that's like what I felt. So, yeah, it can manifest in different ways, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
And
mm. Oh, no, I've just that story that you said about walking through Nordstrom to like pick yourself up after a hard day. It's just such a common thing that I've heard,
yeah,
from people I work with, and even from like my mom and like women in my life. It's just, yeah, it's it's unfortunate because that feeling, it just takes away from you. I think at the end of it, you don't it doesn't make you feel better really. But it's so hard to break that cycle sometimes.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and it often requires going deeper, which probably deeper than like what we're going to talk about in this podcast. But yeah, there's often like a deeper reason why you're turning to that, which I think is interesting to look into. But anyway, once we sort of identify that we maybe have some unhealthy habits with shopping, what's some advice that you would have for people and how we could start to create a healthier relationship with shopping and our clothes?
Mm. Um, yeah, so again, I think we should kind of take the focus away from the brands, and even if we're shopping sustainable brands, and instead turn to look at our habits around consumption. Because, even shopping from sustainable brands and from thrifting, as you mentioned, it can be done in a really unsustainable way. So, I always like to ask people, like, do you consider shopping a hobby? Because I think a lot of people would say yes, you know?
I
Um,
used to. Yeah,
yeah, I did too, right?
literally.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's like fashion, I understand an interest in fashion could be a hobby or, styling can be a hobby, but just the act of buying things, like, is that really something we should be considering a hobby? And there are so many more productive hobbies that give us more, whether it's like learning new skills or just a sense of enjoyment in the activity that we're doing. And shopping, I think, is one of those things it just always takes from it always takes from you. Like this, yeah, when you're surrounded by so many new things and just constantly bombarded by this this need to like own new things, and that just really that can be quite draining. So I would say, yeah, focus on hobbies that are more productive, more creative, and that just make you feel better, and get really comfortable with the idea of shopping slowly. So I always like to give myself a few days or a week or a month before I decide to make a purchase, and just having that kind of buffer period really helps me reassess why I'm buying those things and if I really need them. And I don't know, I feel that having that time is just so helpful. It's one of my main kind of strategies when I'm shopping.
Yeah, I love that, a sort of a waiting period. And are there any, like, certain questions you ask yourself, like, during that waiting period? What's going through your mind, and, like, how do you determine if you really want that piece or not?
Yeah, well, more recently, because I've decided to downsize and keep kind of a smaller number of clothing items in my wardrobe, it's usually a question of could I replace this with something else? Like, do I want this piece so much that I could take something else out that I already have? One in, one out sort of issue. And usually that's a big deterrent for me because I really love the pieces that I have right now. And sometimes it makes sense if you have to replace things just because they're getting a lot of wear or they can't be like mended or something. Yeah, but also asking myself, like, can I see myself wearing this in a year? And, or is it kind of a trendier piece? And I think that's why aesthetically I kind of lean towards more classic and simple pieces because I just know that I'll still really enjoy it. And also why I lean towards more neutral pieces too, because I know myself, I get quite bored with color after a while. So like I might love this bright purple thing right now, but in 6 months, not so sure. So I think it's just really knowing
Yeah.
kind of your own patterns and getting more comfortable with like your personal style too, and just realistically knowing what you will be really excited to wear every day and what is more of just something that is kind of exciting in the moment to buy or trendy at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.